Hello, I'm Dr. Tom, and I'd like to welcome you to another spectacular Friday update. And before we get started on today's lessons, I would like to send out some great energy, some positive thoughts, and some love to not only our fellow Gin brothers and sisters in the storm path of Hurricane Laura, if you will, but specifically to each of us who are impacted in some way by this storm. And I will tell you that as it comes up and passes through Arkansas, probably as you're watching this, and then moves on, I believe it's supposed to exit the United States out Virginia. So it has a long way to go, and many lives are impacted. And there are great lessons in storms like this, because as we talk about in Gin, there are things that you can control and things that you cannot control. And you cannot control when a storm that's 300, 350 miles wide and has winds of 150 miles an hour comes at you. You need to be informed and you need to be prepared. And this is similar to the pandemic situation that's going on across the world, in that you need to be informed about certain things and you need to be aware, and then you need to take some action, and that action depends on where you are and what area you're in. And just like this storm, as it approaches, there are things that you must do in order to survive. And then as the storm passes, you see, there are great analogies here. And as the storm passes and as the skies clear and as the sun begins to shine again and the new lives begin, and literally there will be a new beginning for many people as this storm has had some devastating effects, particularly in Louisiana. And so it's important for us to understand that there are steps and there are phases. This is just like life. And as those storms approach, were you prepared? Are you preparing yourself for the rainy days? Are you preparing yourself for the sunny days? Are you improving yourself, and are you building your immunity so that when you're exposed to this coronavirus, you're ready? And when you're exposed to life's challenges, that you're ready? And when those unexpected twists and turns called life occur in your life, are you ready? The question is, are you building your foundation? Are you building a strong enough foundation to weather the storms of life as they come at you? Because that is life. There are pieces of that. There is the action that happens, and sometimes you have absolutely no control over that. Sometimes you do. And if that's the case, make great choices. When you're faced with times like this, when you don't have control over certain things, you don't have control over the action, what you do have control over is the reaction. How are you going to respond? How are you going to help others? How are you going to build yourself so that when the next storm comes, or when the next pandemic comes, or when the next life experience comes, because life is full of experiences, and how boring would it be if it was all just charted out on a plot that was just so easy? That's not the way life is. Not that it's difficult, because you get to decide. Is it termed easy? My point is, are you ready for the bumps? Are you ready for the challenges that are out there for you, that the obstacles, if you will, the naysayers, if you will, the challenges that happen in life? And I believe one of the best ways to prepare yourself for that is to be reactive. And by that I mean, study the Success Mastery course. Learn the lessons. Pay attention to the words that you're hearing in these valuable lessons. Particularly those of you who are brand new in the club. That you may not yet have experienced multiple wins because you just joined. You may not have experienced yet getting together with fellow members from all over the world, because that hasn't been possible for you at this point on your timeline. All I can do is to tell you that based on past experience, based on history, based on what happens when you engage in this club and when you begin to study and you begin to own these principles and you begin to apply these principles and you begin to see the results and celebrate those results, then you get it. And when it happens, it's an aha moment. And when it happens, sometimes it happens gradually. There are little wins at a time. And sometimes it hits like a bang and says, wow, it hit me like a ton of bricks, is the phrase. Because that's how impactful the decisions that you make and the way that you study and the way that you listen and the way that you get into the zone and the way you pay attention and you feel and receive and then send out those impulses That's how this works. And so it is with those concepts in mind that we send love as a club to those that we can help, to those that we can give a hand up, to those that we can show a better way of being prepared for life's challenges, and that is through the Global Information Network. And it's amazing to me that when you know, see, I pay attention to a lot of things, and I look at signs, and I will tell you that yesterday there was this most gorgeous rainbow that came in my neighborhood. And we got a picture of it, actually, and I've sent that to Joel, and I'm asking him to show that because there are so many symbols there. You know, we know that something was coming because we're informed, and it was off the radar. Well, it got on the radar, and we knew what was happening. And yet, even before that, there were signs to look for the positive. There were signs to say, look past the upcoming storm and the winds and the rain and the weather and the power outages and the things, all of the things that are predictable and certainly are happening. And as you see this, have happened in some parts already, as it's probably moving through Arkansas as you watch this. And the reality is that the more we can do, the more foundation we build, the more we can be prepared. So if we know the power's going out, take certain actions. If you know you're not going to have electricity, if you know that you're not going to have air conditioning, if you know your freezer's going to go out, then take some action steps to be prepared for when that happens. You see, there are simple formulas. And while I do not mean to make light of what's happening in the storm, the point is there are simple things you can do to prepare yourself for the challenges of life that occur. And as we look for these new beginnings, and as we look for the new that will happen behind this, things will be rebuilt. They'll be new. Some of them will be better than they were before. There is change. There's always change. The only constant, as I've said before, the only constant in the universe is change. And to that end, we had a change as we were scheduled to be together in our global family reunion in Las Vegas. And it was not possible because of the actions of certain outside forces that had closed the hotel we were going to meet. Well, I was told that on August the 27th, the Mirage was finally going to open. And so as one who likes to bring forward factual information, I actually called the Mirage on the 27th to see if, in fact, you are open, because I am so in anticipation of what's going to happen when we get together as a group, and so many new members are going to be there and witness this for the first time. I'm excited about it, even though it's months away. This is a time for you to become excited about it, even if you don't know what it is yet. Just get excited about being ready to be there, because now it is possible. I talked to a very pleasant young lady on the phone who said, yes, we are in fact open. We're ready for business. We look so forward to your group coming and being here and sharing in what's happening inside the world of the Mirage. And so I'm excited for each of you. I'm excited for every single person in this club, and for the people who will join between now and then, who will be in this club. Even though we don't know their names yet, we can feel their energy coming, and we know what's going to happen. And to get together with that group, it's one of those things that fulfills my purpose personally, because that's why I do much of what I do. And it reminded me, you know, as I was talking last week, and I ran across that book from Zig Ziglar, the "See You at the Top" version of that, and I will tell you that I had recently run across the original title of Biscuits, Fleas, and Pump Handles, and I'm certainly glad that he changed it to "See You at the Top," because to me it's a much better fit. And what an icon in the industry! What an example of an individual who dedicated his life to sharing principles that will live on long after his physical presence is gone. And you see, that's the part of the legacy that we talk about in Gin. How many lives can you impact? How many lives can you alter their course? Can you give them the opportunity for them to alter their own course? What a powerful message. And I'm thankful to Zig for that. And as I was looking at that, you know, one of the key phrases that he used was that you can get everything in life that you want if you simply help enough other people get what they want. And what a great synopsis of the world of gin. And you know, because that is one of our goals, is to help other people get what they want, and even more appropriately what they desire and what they dream of, and what's their vision, and what's out there, what moves them and what drives them and what motivates them, and what enthusiastically moves them in a direction. And as you know, I shared last week the information about Charles Goodyear and how I found that so appropriate for last week's messaging. And so I went back because the message was about making lemonade out of lemons. And if you did not see last week's message, I would encourage you, when you finish this one, to go back and listen to the message from last week. I think it was very appropriate. And so I went back in that chapter to see, because I literally flipped open the book and there it was. And so I didn't even go back and get the context. I mean, I understand the concept of lemons to lemonade, and so it was appropriate and it fit. And so I kept getting these thoughts, these random thoughts, these recurring thoughts throughout the week that said there's more to that story. And so I went back and looked at the beginning of that chapter, and it was titled, or the section of that chapter, Erroneous Assumption. And wow, what an appropriate time. And this book was written in the early 70s. And what an appropriate message. Erroneous assumptions. And you see, it talked about when the United States got involved in World War II, was when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. And so there was this movement inside the United States to literally to seize people of Japanese ethnicity and to put them in camps and to, you know, watch them, and there was a paranoia, if you will, about them just because of where they came from. And I thought, what an appropriate message for right now for the world. Because it is a time to reevaluate. Are we making some erroneous assumptions? And are we judging people by the color of their skin, or are we judging a book by its cover? And we know that's not what we learn and what we teach in gin. And so it's really a matter of looking at all people and understanding. Listen to this message that happened after World War II, because America finally realized that, after much persuasion and soul searching, that many of these Japanese people of Japanese descent were actually allowed to join and fight for the United States. And as a result of that decision, as a result of the rethinking of that, if you will, the 442nd Combat Regiment team was formed, and it was made up of Japanese Americans. And interestingly enough, this regiment won more Congressional Medals of Honor. Now get this, you see, they had something to prove. They had a purpose. They had a mission. It was erroneously assumed in one direction. In the reality, what turned out, the facts are that they won more Congressional Medals of Honor and more medals of honor and decorations than any regiment in the history of the United States. And since that war, this group of Japanese Americans has had the highest percentage of college graduates of any first generation of American people. They reacted positively to a situation that was both negatively and highly emotional. They took a lemon and made lemonade. You see, that gives us each something to think about our assumptions, about judging a book by its cover, about not understanding the depth of who people are. And I guess my ask for you this week is, what lemons are you processing into lemonade? What challenges are happening in your life that you can turn into a huge win? What lessons are you learning about other people and other societies and other areas of the planet? And that's one of the beauties of the Global Information Network, is that we have people from all over the planet. Lots of different cultures, lots of different ways of looking at things, lots of different viewpoints, if you will. And so I encourage you to use your discernment. I encourage you to listen. I encourage you to be open and not only find out about others, but most importantly, find out about you. What makes you tick? Think about that. Think about ways in which you can take a situation that's happening currently in your life, wherever you find yourself on this globe. What positive steps can do? What unconditional love can you share? What pay it forward concept can you do between now and next week? What pay it forward concept can you do to impact completely unconditionally? Nothing in return for it, just a good deed. What can you do? And I ask you to, in that moment when you do that deed, because they're so easy, it can be something as simple as opening a door for someone. It's the same energy. It can be something as buying a first responder a dinner if you see them out. It can be anything that you choose it to be. And in that moment, when you give unconditionally the ability to pay something forward, I ask you to cherish that moment. I ask you to take a deep breath in with that moment and to own it. And then make it a part of your fiber and a part of your being. And see how it makes you feel. See how it makes you feel. I'm Dr. Tom. I hope you have a spectacular week.